Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. The program is Focal Point, the network AFR Talk, talking today about Sturgis Bike Week and the presence of Hellfighters and Bikers for Christ up there, sharing the gospel, handing out pamphlets and tracts that explain the gospel, having church services in some of the most notorious bars in Sturgis where the gospel is being proclaimed and needy people are being prayed for. So that's all going on up in Sturgis. Talking about the purchase of the Washington Post by the guy that also owns Amazon.com. And make no mistake about where this guy is at politically. You know, as I mentioned before the break, he made, and his wife made, the largest single contribution for the campaign to promote same-sex marriage that's ever been made in the history of the world. He gave $2.5 million to support the campaign for sodomy-based marriage in the state of Washington. Now, 88% of the donations, the political donations that he has made in his life, have been made to Democrats. So there will be no change whatsoever in the political perspective that's offered by the Washington Post. Now, he has supported a libertarian foundation that produces the Reason magazine, and that's a lot of good stuff in it about economics. Economically, I'm a libertarian. Socially, I'm a conservative. I'm a social conservative and economic libertarian. I'm with them on almost all of the economic issues. I'm a hardcore libertarian when it comes to economics. I'm a hardcore conservative when it comes to social issues. But here's that quote from Jeff Bezos. He gave this in an interview with the Berliner Zeitung newspaper. Let's see what the date was on this, but here's what he said in the interview. There is one thing I'm certain about. There won't be printed newspapers in 20 years. Maybe as luxury items in some hotels that want to offer them as an extravagant service, printed papers won't be normal in 20 years. So this indicates to me he's going to pressure the Washington Post to accelerate abandoning the print platform. Their print division lost 4% decline in revenue over the last year. So I think this is going to be momentum. I mean, the days of print newspapers, I think, are virtually at an end. Number to call, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. And, you know, one of the problems, I think one of the reasons that newspapers have lost customers is they've lost credibility. Here's a piece by John Nolte writing about the Washington Post. Over the years, the fake fact checks, the apparent coordinating with the Obama campaign to destroy Romney, the phony smears leveled at Republicans, the nonstop pushing of leftist causes, the unforgivable stealth corrections. I mean, they would make corrections in stories and not even acknowledge it, which is below journalistic standards at any level. The laughably biased polls, all of this added up in a way that devastated the Post's credibility and left it a shell of itself. You can't wade into an online world where competition is everywhere. And see, that's the point, ladies and gentlemen, because you've got alternative media. The Washington Post used to be the place you went to get news, or the New York Times. Now you can go all over the world and get your news. You're not restricted to one or two main sources. And you're starting to read stuff other places that's credible, it's sound, it's good journalism, good reporting, and you're not reading anything about it in the Washington Post because it's like that Sturgis story. You know, Craig Franklin talking about this church service in a bar. Now, that's a story. Most notorious bar in Sturgis, South Dakota, Sturgis Bike Week. You've got these bikers having a church service in the bar. I mean, that's the number one story of the week. I don't care who you are, but the mainstream media is just not interested. Doesn't fit the narrative that they want to promote. And that's what's happened with the Washington Post. They've just screened out stories, edited them out, decided they're not even worth covering, and people are discovering there's a whole entire world of journalism out there, things happening. I'm not reading anything about it in the New York Times or the Washington Post, like that story never even existed as far as they were concerned. So he said, look, we've got competition everywhere, and you behave like this when people have options. They are not going to stand for the absurd deception that they are paying for and giving page views to, quote, an objective news outlet. To millions and millions of potential customers, the Post became something that wasn't vital, something they no longer trusted. Millions more see the Post as an outright antagonist out to undermine who they are and what they believe in. And the free market, when you alienate most of the customers, you end up on the wrong end of a fire sale. And the reality is Washington Post, their clientele, their customer base, exclusively liberals, that's about 20% of the American people. They have written off 80% of their potential clientele. They've said to 80% of the Americans, you are beneath us. We don't have time for you. We are not interested in producing stories of any interest to you. We're not interested in any kind of objective journalism. We're not interested at all in providing a conservative viewpoint that we know might resonate with you because you're like something we scrape off the bottom of our shoe, and now it has come back to bite them. Well, let's go to the phones, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Let's go to Jason in Houston, Texas. Jason, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Well, how's it going? I just called to make a couple comments about Jeff Bezos and really kind of the state of the media.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to say it's a non-story, but I too, like you, agree that pretty much that printed media for news is going to go away, just like cassette tapes went away and CDs are going away, mainly because of technology.
Mm-hmm.
I think versus the credibility of the establishment. Now, as far as the Jeff Bezos thing goes, I don't actually know where he stands politically. I kind of heard some of what you said, but I think it is, marginalizing him to say that he's simply a guy who sells lunch boxes and toy monkeys.
No, I'm not marginalizing him, and I'm not minimizing that whatsoever. I think that's legitimate. I mean, he's obviously offering products that people want to buy, so I commend him for that. I'm all down with that. My only point there, Jason, is the left is scandalized because they look at the Washington Post as this iconic flagship publication that operates up there in the ether, up there in a stratosphere where only the elites operate. Ordinary mortals like you and me aren't allowed into that part of the stratosphere. And now that thing is being owned by a guy that sells Barbie roll-on lip gloss. I mean, it's not a problem for me. It's not a problem for you. I buy stuff on Amazon all the time. You probably do too. I got no problem with that. I'm for that. It's the left. They're so snooty and so arrogant they can't stand the fact, that a guy that sells Scooby-Doo lunch boxes now owns the Washington Post. The problem is with them. It's not with me.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I don't really see it, especially given what you said about Bezos' political background, that it's really anything. I mean, I don't want to say it's a non-story, but it's just, the handing off. I am concerned about, why did he pay so much for it? But outside of him actually owning it and what they'll do in the future, I don't think they'll change anything.
Yeah, and that, Jason, is an interesting thing to me about this story, that he paid so much money for this. He paid 17 times the profit, which is about 4 to 5 times more than what you would typically pay for a major metropolitan newspaper. So, I don't even think I've got a theory about why he did that. I mean, it's obviously, it's like pocket change to him. And so maybe he looks at the Washington Post as kind of like, hey, neat. It's like having a Jaguar or a Ferrari in the garage. Hey, look what I got. Almost like a trinket or a kind of a luxury toy, luxury accessory. Maybe that's all it is for him.
A piece of progressive history.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what it's about. All right, Jason, listen, I appreciate the call. Thank you for that. Let's go to John in Covington, Tennessee. 888-589-8840, the number to call. John, Covington, Tennessee, what's on your mind?
Yeah, good to be on the show. I'm a first-time caller to any radio station.
Well, thanks for calling.
For when Marlon Maddox was on 6:40 a.m., I used to listen to him.
Mm-hmm. He was a great one.
Oh, wasn't it? And I really appreciate your show. I appreciate you standing in there for the Lord. I appreciate all you've been doing and waking the people up. This Friday afternoon, on Channel 3, I think it's WREC, they showed figure of the National Guard. They were out in uniform. I don't know where you've seen it yet. They were actually doing like the healthcare thing. As soon as they were out, they were taking people in. They were actually in their uniform. They were doing dental work. They were talking about the military. There's 140 different National Guard places doing it. I don't know where it was just in Tennessee or what. And just as soon as I saw it, I knew what was happening. And they were giving health care to people. They were interviewing people how good it was and everything, that they had never had health care. They were giving out free health care as a promotion. And just a few minutes later, they said that was a part of the Obamacare.
Yeah.
They're using the military to promote it.
Isn't that something? I mean, that is amazing. And that part I didn't know, so that's new information to me. But, you know, they've got this huge budget. I mean, $500 million or something like that to promote this. You know, they're going to pay people that work for Planned Parenthood. They're going to pay people that are part of unions to go out there and promote and advertise this health care. When have you ever heard a law? It's just a law. You pass a law setting a new speed limit, you know, on some major thoroughfare in your city. You don't have big events and volunteers out there that you're paying to promote the new law. It just goes into effect. Newspaper writes about it. People are expected to know about it. So it's an indication that they know. I think that they know this thing is a tough sell. And I saw yesterday a poll that indicates that 57% of the American people think this is a bad idea. Only 44% like it. So I guess that's over 100%. So maybe it's 57-43, something like that. But it's about a 13% differential. More people think this is a bad law, that Obamacare is bad, than think it is good. So they know they've got an uphill to climb. We'll talk about this coming out of the news. The number of implementation problems with Obamacare now are huge. I'll go through some of that with you. There's huge risk to violation of privacy concerns. A lot of your private information, my private information, is going to be on this federal data hub. There's no protections, no secure protections from hackers. You have people that have not gotten background checked that have all your personal information. They'll have access to it. They'll have to be these navigators that our last caller was just talking about. So it's got a raft of problems. That's why they're out there selling it. They know they got a bad deal on their hands. Back in 5.